Welcome, my friends, to Shaking the Salt with Dr. Peppers. At the end of the message, stay tuned if you want to contact me for any reason, including prayers. Thank you, and I'm Dr. Peppers, Shaking the Salt. Here we go. Whenever a friend of mine is healed of some disease, or a friend goes into the hospital, or a relative, a loved one, has something wrong and they are healed, I am thrilled. But until you have had a miracle happen yourself, I don't know if you realize the amount of joy and just unbelievable feeling of ecstasy, especially when, like I have, you've been battling it for 25 years. There was a gentleman that wrote an article in a recent it was also a Christian medical magazine. So I'll just say that he was talking about in terms of healing when there's also been prayer. And he said, as a medical doctor, he has seen more illness, more tragedy, more shootings, more everything in the past 2 years. And it didn't seem like he had seen that many more miracles. Maybe in comparison, but for the one who receives a miracle, such as I recently received, at least I felt that I did, was something that to me was almost short of being unbelievable. That's all I can say. For those of you that know my plight, 25 years ago, when I retired from teaching, boy, it's been a long time, hasn't it? Wow. And I had become less active. That was the only difference in my life. I was still eating the same. I was going to Weight Watchers. I was trying to exercise, but I wasn't getting the degree of exercise that I had been because I was no longer teaching. And everyone knows when you're a high school teacher and a university teacher and directing plays and going back and forth to do TV and radio, you hardly get any time to just sit and eat. Well, when I had retired from high school, I now had 7-8 more hours than I would have had. And so I had longer in the morning to get ready for my radio program. I had to drive in the traffic for at least an hour northward and at least an hour southward. And I was sitting in the car 2 hours a day. When I would get to the radio station, I would sit and prep with my program director or the board op or whoever I was dealing with that day for at least another half an hour or hour. And then I was on the radio for 3 hours every day in the afternoon, having to drive back in the evening when I was so tired. And so by the time I got home, my husband had dinner ready, sweet man, and we would sit and eat, and I was exhausted and would sit and watch some TV and say a quick prayer, and I'd be in bed fairly early, let me tell you. So I was either sitting or reclining or sleeping almost 24 hours a day. That's the only difference that I could tell. So when this pain started in my lower back and mostly in my right leg, I had no idea what it was. And because the two coincided, most of the doctors that I saw, 17 of them in the past 25 years, believed it to be part of the sciatic nerve, or at least coming from the back. Now, because most of us, as we age, do get a little stiff in the back, or we do get a little stenosis, we can agree that that can cause some issues in itself. But I had a stabbing pain in my right thigh, only in one place, right in the center of my right thigh, between my hip and my knee to the right side. It wasn't in the front, it wasn't in the back, it wasn't in the left. And because it was so intense, I almost would scream, and sometimes my poor husband would find me in a fetal position on the ground. They tried everything they could, all of the doctors through the years. And I tried everything. I've had several surgeries. I had an implant, and I still have it in my spine. I've had electrical magnitude things done. I've had all kinds of chiropractic, physical therapy, issues that I never thought I would have to do, all done. And yet, unless I was actually knocked out having the surgery, I always, and I mean always, within 2 hours, had the pain come back. Stabbing, like every 30 seconds at the longest. And I had to lie on a tennis ball to sleep. I had to stretch out on a recliner to get any kind of relief with something under my leg. If you're familiar with the drug gabapentin, I started at 100 every 4 or 5 hours, and by the time 2024 was here, I was taking 3,600 milligrams of gabapentin a day, and that is the limit. But I had started it so gradually that even though the doctors were hesitant about prescribing that much, I had been taking it for a year or two. And so, therefore, my new doctors in Florida were also saying, well, if that's the only way she can get any relief. I have been to several pain doctors. I have had acupuncture, acupressure, massages. I've had everything that we could think of. And my last doctor, who did the last 2 surgeries and was scheduling the third one, was part of the Mayo Clinic training out of Orlando from Jacksonville. Now, 2 weeks ago, as I'm recording this, one of our actual girls' dinners here in the neighborhood that we have every month was just another typical one of those. I had guessed because we have about 15 to 20 of us and we tend to sit by those we know the most, I saw one of the ladies that I knew had recently semi-retired but didn't know her very well. And I'll give her first name because I want her to get the credit. Her name is Brenda. And when Brenda and I were sitting and chatting, she said, "Tell me more about your pain." And I said, "I know you're going to ask me if I've ever done any kind of physical therapy for it, and I have." And she said, "Well, you know that I am knowledgeable in kinesthetics, and I have taught yoga and Pilates." And I said, "Oh, Brenda, I've tried, so many exercises." And she said, "Well, let me just send you something later and see if maybe it'll help." So when I received a little exercise that she had me do, it was about 11 o'clock p.m. that night, and I thought, I am so tired. But nevertheless, I have tried anything anyone has ever recommended. And so I did. I did this one exercise where you lie on your back, you bend your knees up, and you press up as if you're doing a plank, so to speak, or a bridge, as they call it, I guess. And then you make yourself pulse. And I did 3 of these, and then I went to bed. I lay out my pills the night before, my gabapentin and any other pain pills I have. And when I woke up the next morning, my husband and I both looked at each other and said, "Why did you not take any of your pain pills during the night?" I said, "I don't have pain." What? This one little exercise that none of the 17 physicians had heard of, chiropractors had heard of. Nobody knew to try this on the one place on your leg, but Brenda knew. I just wanted to run over and grab her and just hug her, but I was on my way to visit my mom and my sister and my brother in St. Louis, and I always have pain on airplanes, and again, none. I even found a handicapped section in the women's restroom where I could put down some papers and lie on that to do the little exercise before I flew. And I cannot believe it. Ladies and gentlemen, I have had maybe the onset of what could have been that pain in the last 2 weeks, but virtually nothing. And that, to me, is a miracle. I think the moral of the story is don't expect your answer in the way you see it coming. Don't expect someone to heal you that's necessarily a physician. Don't expect to get your monetary reward, find that husband, get that inheritance, get that job, whatever it is. Don't expect it in your normal way, and that way you're not limiting how God can use you. Now, Brenda, as far as I know, isn't a Christian believer. All she said is that sometimes the universe gives me ideas and I follow through. Well, I have a gift for Brenda, and I can't wait to see her, take her to lunch, something where I'm going to reveal to her how God used her for my healing. And believe me, my friends, as far as I'm concerned, it's a miracle. God, I pray for the one listening right now, the one that maybe has not had that miracle, the one that is waiting for a healing or a financial breakthrough or for a loved one or an upcoming operation, or the one that is going through a devastating time in their life and needs something, but they don't even know what. God, I believe the first answer is you. And the second answer is you still work miracles. So I pray, God, that you will let them be patient, that they won't get angry at you for not answering, and that if they have not even been a believer, that they would turn to you and remember that you so loved the world you sent your only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. And you said, whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And the everlasting life is even more of a miracle. Help my friend listening to find both abundant life and miraculous life and everlasting life. In Jesus' name. I'm Dr. Pepper, shaking the salt. Thanks for staying on, my friend. If you would like to contact me, visit saltandlightministry.com. If you want to share your story with me, ask a question, have me come speak to your group, or maybe just request prayer. Once again, saltandlightministry.com. Thanks and God bless.